guys, it's Stephanie from My Porch Prints. Welcome back. Today we are going to be making an easy no-sew journal, and it's going to focus a lot on layers and just the beautiful kit that we're going to be using. This is our Shabby Victorian scrap pack, and the reason that it's called a scrap pack and not a journal kit is because it doesn't include like journal pages, envelopes, pockets, but it does include a lot of papers and ephemera, and we're going to be using those today to make this journal. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so to begin, I went ahead and printed the whole kit. I printed a lot of the ephemera on cardstock, and I cut it all out. And then I also printed the papers of the kit. And what I did was I printed half the papers, and then I flipped them over and ran them back through the printer and printed the other half on the other side. And I think this has an uneven number of papers, so if you don't have enough, you can always print one extra or one less, or however you want to do it. And you can have repeats, it doesn't matter, because what we're actually going to be doing is hinging our papers or our pages together. So again, I just printed the papers, I cut off the trim, and then I folded them in half. And I got this stack of papers here. And to attach our pages together, instead of sewing, we're going to be using a kind of like hinge method, where we're going to be using another piece of paper to kind of attach these together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take two pages that are folded in half, and then I took some of the other papers in the pack and I just I cut them out. So I printed them just one-sided, and I cut them into 3 strips, 1, 2, 3. And they're not even, you can see they're not the same size, but that's okay because we're not looking for perfection here. We're just going to be using these kind of as a hinge piece. And to do this, what I'm going to do is just glue this piece right in the middle of these 2 papers, and then we'll fold it, and that'll become kind of like a little hinge holding the papers together. And so that's how we're going to be binding our journal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just put some glue on the back of this hinge piece, just like this. Plenty of glue. And then what I'm going to do is make sure these are lined up and just kind of flip this over on top of them. And try to line it up as well. And just check to make sure these are lined up nicely. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and just fold these in half, just like this. And we're not worried about making everything perfectly even. You know, junk journals are meant to be kind of shabby, kind of, you know, a collection of random papers. And so there we go. So now that becomes just a piece of paper holding these pages together. And we're going to repeat that for the rest of the journal, and then that'll become the pages of our journal. Okay, so we've got a couple of our pages hinged together. And you can see it gives it a little bit of layering here already. And this is going to be very focused on layering, this whole journal. And you might think, oh, that's kind of weird with this strange little piece in the middle. But once we start adding ephemera to cover it and pieces, it's really just going to look like one more layer in our journal. So I will go ahead and finish adding the rest of these pages same way, and then we will start to decorate. And as your pages start to stack up and become thicker, it may become harder to just glue them together. You may have to do one side and then the other. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you that really quickly. So I measure about where, halfway is, and I'm gonna just put glue on my new sheet here, my new folded piece of paper. And then I'm just gonna glue half of this on here, like this. And smooth it with my bone folder. And if you're wondering about some of the supplies we're using, we'll have a link down below to our Amazon shop, and you can find a lot of these supplies that we use. And then you can see it's got a little overhang here, and that's how we're going to attach it here. And to do that, we're just going to apply it to this back side. just like that. And then I'm going to flip my book over, make sure that it's right side up, and just attach it here. And again, don't worry about perfection. Try to keep it as straight as you can, but if it gets a little off, it's okay. There's a lot of forgiveness in junk journaling. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just fold it, crease it. Oops, got a little glue on my page. And then you can see that will become your hinge. So I'll repeat that and finish these pages, and then we'll get to work. Okay, so that was the last page that I had for this. And you can see we've got our journal bound together. No sewing. Okay, so before we start attaching the covers, I would like to address the spine. So right now it looks kind of like this, which to me is kind of cute. I don't mind it. But if you want to cover your spine, this is a good time to do it. So I think I'm gonna get a piece of lace and just cover this up, and then we can build our cover on top of that so the lace won't cover our cover. You know, we wanna do the cover over the lace, not the other way around. So I'm gonna pick a pretty piece of lace and we're gonna cover up this spine. As you can see, I've gathered a bunch of items that I feel like goes with this kit. And I've got some velvet ribbon and some lace and some pretty chiffon flowers and some pearls. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make this kind of my inspiration for the kit. And it's just got a really lovely, soft Victorian look to it. So I think lace is going to work really well for covering that spine. And I've got a couple different kinds here. I've got this one, which is a little more peekaboo, a little more see-through. And that's kind of pretty, but I'm afraid that it may not do a very good job covering things. So I'm going to maybe try this one that's a little more opaque. Well, maybe a little more translucent. And I think that's going to work really nicely. So I'm going to cut a piece of this and we'll cover up that spine. And it's just a little bit long, but I don't mind that. I really love a kind of messy, shabby look for this kit. And so I'm going to kind of embrace mistakes or pieces that are sticking out or, you know, whatever. And we're not going to let that bother us too much. There we go. And then I'm just going to wrap it around that spine and onto the back. I'm just going to trim this up. All right, so now I'm ready to decorate this cover. And there are a lot of options for this cover. I'm telling you guys, it's as fun as you want to make it. This kit comes with a lot of words and ephemera and layers and little florals and birds. And you just have a lot of options for making this cover whatever you want it to be. You could even make like a flip on the cover. But I'm going to go ahead and just do some nice little layers. I really like the pinks and the blues in this kit. And I'm going to be a grandma soon for the first time in my life. And so I've heard that these kind of pink and blue shabby chic colors are a little bit like grandma chic, sometimes it's called. That must be why I like them so much, since I'm going to be a grandma pretty soon. So we're gonna go ahead and use these pinks and blues together. And this kit, again, is just going to be about layering. So fun layers, pretty textures. That's what I'm going to be shooting for with this cover. I've got this pretty little rosette. It might find a place here. And if you're thinking I have a plan before I come into this, I don't. I really just have a vague idea of, you know, what's in the kit and what I like, and then I just kind of put it together. So there's just a little bit of trial and error involved, and that's what we're going to be doing right now. And before we get too far into this, one of the things I really wanted to do here is to give it kind of that really old Victorian feel. And part of that is kind of like aging your ephemera. And you've probably used like distress ink to give the edges that kind of dark look. But this kit is so light and airy feeling, I think I like a lighter look better. So I've been experimenting with how to age ephemera and make it look, you know, lighter. And one of the things that I have done is to use like a sanding block. Let me see if I can find mine. So this is just a light grit sanding block. It's like spongy. You can buy them, you know, pretty much anywhere. I think even like Walmart and stuff. And what you can do is just sand off some of the edges of your stuff, and it will give it kind of a white edge look, which makes it look like it's been handled and used a lot. And let me go ahead and just do that on this piece. I'm gonna give it a little bit of aging. So I don't know if you can see that. It gives that edge just that look like it's been faded and used. Another thing you can do to get that kind of white edge is to just use a little bit of acrylic paint. I'll show you here real quick. So like a little bit of acrylic paint and a brush. And what you do is you dip your brush in the paint and then wipe it off till it's almost dry. And then you would just come in from the edges a little bit like this, and it would give it kind of a white edge look. I did that on one of the pieces. Let me see if I can find it. And I gave this kind of a aged look, and you can see it's got a little bit of white paint showing right there. And it just gives it that kind of cool old look. So we're gonna kind of use this technique on here, but I'm gonna try it with sanding the edges. And this is printed on 110-pound Pen & Gear brand cardstock, but you can use whatever cardstock works best for you. And just to make it even a little more authentic, I'm gonna go ahead and bend one corner. And I think it's gonna be this one, since I already kind of bent it anyway. And when I bend that corner, I'm gonna sand that crease. And if you were doing the dry paint method, you would just put a little dry paint on that crease. Or a little, you know, the dry brush method. And then it just has that look like it's been worn over time. And then I'm going to also do just a little tear. Because, you know, when you have something for a long time, it gets a little torn corner. And that corner tore a long time ago, so it doesn't have a fresh crease anymore. It's very worn on the edge as well. There we go. See, I'm giving this a little backstory. And then also I have a Tim Holtz tool. Here it is. And this is a tool for roughing up edges as well. And you could use that to give it kind of a rough edge look. You can see right there, it's kind of giving it that old look as well. Now this thing is starting to look really authentically old. I think it's got a very worn look to it. It's more believable as old ephemera. I'm going to put this on the cover, and I think I'd like to give the cover some depth, so I might use some mounting tape on the back of this. And since this is a big piece, I'm going to cut a few larger strips. And then we're just playing with some layers here, trying to decide, you know, what we want. Textures, layers, all of that's really good. Okay, and it's kind of a simple cover, but I like that. And we're gonna go ahead and just start decorating some pages. Okay, so even though this journal kit, or you know, scrap pack, doesn't come with regular pages, it does include these writing cards, and they're a good size to fit on a page, and we've got 6 of them, but you could print as many as you want. And I'm going to be interspersing them throughout this journal to give it a little bit of writing space. Now, one of the things that I've considered doing with this, and I think it's kind of a good idea, is not gluing every piece in, but rather decorating them and clipping them in. And so I may be doing that throughout the book as well. But I don't think I'll start on this front one, because if I clipped it, you would see the clip on the cover, and I don't think I want to do that. So this one I think I will just glue down. And I'm lifting the page up a little bit so that I can kind of see the crease, so I can center my ephemera a little bit better on the page. It's sometimes hard to see when the pattern goes all the way across. So I think I want to put another writing space on this side, like this. But this little clip's in the way, so I'm gonna go ahead and unclip this for a moment. And if you wanted to, you wouldn't have to glue this down. You could just glue like the top and the side and the bottom and leave a little space open for like a pocket, a little secret tuck spot, something like that. And you could just like slide something in and hide it there. I might do that with some in the future. This is seam binding ribbon. I'll try to find a link down below for you. And I'm just gonna pull it through like this and make a little loop here and stick my little tails through the loop. And if this doesn't want to stay for you, you can always put a little dab of glue inside there as well. And I'm going to be adding just a little bit of bling, some pearls. And you wouldn't have to use stickers for this. You could just use some pretty pearls or beads and just glue them on too, if you wanted to add a little pearl or accent of some sort. Okay, so I would like to make a little flip, and this kit includes these pieces. They're actually the same size. There's one sheet and then another sheet, and they both are pretty much the same size images. And you can see this one's probably not quite right. It's cut a little bit big, but there we go. You can see that they're pretty much the same size on both sides. And so I'm gonna use these to make a little flip. And I'm just gonna use some scrap paper to attach them, kind of like a little hinge, and I'll show you how we're gonna do that. So this is just some scrap cardstock that I had, and I'm going to use it to make these hinges. So I'll need some just a little bit smaller than my card sizes. So you can see it's not quite as long. Oops, am I on camera here? Quite as long as my card, it's just a little bit smaller. And I'm not going to use both of the large pieces. I'm just going to use one. I think I'm going to use this one. And so to start with, I'm going to basically make sure these are the same size. And you can tell this one's just a little bit off. So I'm going to trim it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to make a little space here. Glue these two pieces together with this little hinge inside, and I'm gonna fold this ahead of time. It's a little wonky. But I'm going to fold it like this. And now we got a little hingy piece that's gonna go inside of here. Oh, and I want to decide what side is going to face the front. So this is actually going to be the front piece. Probably should have cut it that way. Make sure it's going to work. Okay. And so I got to decide where I want my hinge. So how this is going to work is I'm going to have the larger piece in back, and then the second largest piece in front of that. And then the next one. And then finally this little piece goes in the very front. And so I'm probably gonna have it open this way, this way, this way. So I'm gonna put my hinge on this side and this piece will open to this side. Actually, you know what, since I'm putting it on this page, I might want it to open the other way first. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put my hinge on this side. You get to learn from my deliberations. Okay, so now that I've got that decided, I'm going to add my hinge and make sure that the fold of the hinge lines up with the fold, or with the side, just like that. And then I'm going to put a little more glue over my hinge. And then this piece goes on top. just like this. And if you wanted to try to disguise it a little bit, you could use some distress ink around the edges, and then that would cover kind of the white part of this hinge a little bit. You could just ink over the top of that. So that'll go here, and it'll open up like this. And then I've got this piece, which will open up. Oh, you know, I didn't really consider that. I kind of wanted this piece on this side, but maybe it would work better on this side. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, so it'll open this direction. And again, it's not perfect to the size. So instead of cutting this, I am gonna ink the edges because I don't wanna cut off any of this piece. I like that the edges have this kind of brown, worn look, and I don't wanna chop that off. So I'm going to ink this to kind of hide the white that's showing. So I've got some distress ink here. I'm actually using Vintage Photo distress ink. And this is just a makeup sponge. We have ink applicator sponges as well, but this one was close to hand, so I'm going to use it. I'm just gonna apply it on the edges here to kind of hide this white. And then when I glue this on here, it won't look quite so strange. Okay, and I'm gonna fold my hinge. And I'm gonna kind of work it a little so that it'll go back and forth easily. And then we'll just try to remember which way we're doing this. So this one's going to sit here and fold like this. So I want the hinge on this side. A little glue over the hinge, and then we'll add this piece. And again, since it's a little big, this hinge is really gonna show, so I'm gonna try to ink it a little along this edge, just to hide it a little bit. Okay. And then this piece is going to open this way. Okay. So now that we've got all of our pieces glued and our little hinges on, what we're gonna do is start with our largest piece, and we're gonna, that's gonna be the piece that glues to our page. So we're gonna glue this one behind here, just like this, and then we're gonna glue this one next, just like that, and then finally we're gonna glue this one over the top. And then that's gonna give us a little kind of flip that we can have in here. So we'll start with this one. We'll just glue it onto the back. And you can kind of decide where you want it. You know, if you want it higher or lower. I think this will be good right here. And then this one I may want a little higher so we can see this girl's face. We don't want to like hide it, you know, so that'll go right there, I think. Yeah, right about there. And then this will go over the top right here. And then I'll glue the whole thing down. will leave this side open so that I can maybe tuck something behind here. So to do that, I'm just gonna glue the top and the side and the bottom. And that'll leave a little opening on this side if I want to tuck something in there. Okay, let's see how our flip's working. Flip, flip, flip. And I probably should have inked these edges. I can see that they're showing. We could cover those with something if we wanted to, a little piece of lace or ribbon, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it for now. But there we go. There's our little flip. And if your flip's flipping open and you don't want it to, you could always put a little clip on it. I don't know if it's going to be a huge problem, so I think I'm going to leave it. Okay, and I have been giving thought to these little words, and I think I would like to make them into tabs. So I don't think they're going to be very substantial on their own. I think they might need buffed up a little bit. So I'm going to use some of my scrap papers, and I'm just going to fold a little piece over like this, and then it'll become a background for my tabs. I put a little cheesecloth on here. And then my, oops, word. Ooh, that could make a really cute shabby little tabby, a shabby tabby. So I might give that a try. So now we've got this little page tab that opens, and we can stick it on the edge of our page here, on the top of our page here. Sorry, that was out of frame. Okay, so while I was off camera, I decided to add a little bit of lace right here to cover these hinges when you weren't looking. I do a lot of things when you're not looking. I picked your pocket just now. Kidding, I didn't pick your pocket, but you probably checked. Haha. No, I'm kidding. So now that I've added lace to this to kind of cover those hinges, this is a bit puffy, it doesn't want to close. And again, you could use a clip, but I'm going to use some Velcro dots. They're pretty invisible, and I'm going to go ahead and use those to close this. Right here. And stick those down. And they're not totally invisible, but they're pretty inconspicuous, and I think they work nicely for this. And that'll hold closed, and I won't have to worry about it flopping open every time I open my journal. Before I leave this page completely, I found some of my wax seal stickers, and I think I have a link for these in my Amazon shop, which I'll put the link to the shop below. But I think I'm going to use these on this page. Do you ever just go back to a page and think, oh, it needs one more thing? I do that all the time. And I'm going to add it here, maybe with a little sprig of ribbon. We've got this little pink velvet ribbon that I got. I love it. It's very sweet and shabby. And I think I'm going to kind of put it up here with this little wax seal. And that looks a little unsubstantial compared to the ribbon, so I think what I'm going to do is put something behind the wax seal and then put that down. I've got my big punch here and some paper from the kit with handwriting. And I think that will make it a little more substantial. And then I think I might even do another piece. And then I'll ink the edges and we'll put that together. So for the next page, I wanted to do something with texture paste and stencils. And you can see when you use texture paste with stencils, it gives it this kind of raised surface, which is really cool. This one's still wet, so I don't want to touch it too much. And you can see I took off some of my jewelry and things because I don't want it to get pasted. But I'm just going to show you real quickly this technique. I think it's a really neat way to add just some interest and texture to a page. So I've got that aged piece of ephemera where I used the white paint, if you remember earlier. And I'm just going to put a little texture paste on this. And I've got this stencil, which I already used for this one. And you just put the stencil over your piece of ephemera and you add your paste to it. And I've got a whole bunch of stencils here that I haven't even used some of these yet. And they have a nice kind of what I would consider Victorian style patterns and designs. And then this one's got like writing, and I'm really excited to try this one. But for today, I'm just going to be using this just to show you the technique. And it will take a while to dry, so I wanted to do it and give it some time to dry. So you just line up your stencil with the piece or the page you want to put the stencil on. And then I'm using this texture paste from Ranger. And what I'm doing is just taking this applicator, and you can use a lot of things. You can use like a credit card or anything flat and thin. And I'm just going to lightly run it over the pattern of the stencil. And I want to get it kind of thick down here at the corner a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of smooth it up here at the top. And it's just going to kind of half stencil it. Now you could stencil it completely if you want to, but I want it to have kind of an old look, like it's kind of, you know, faded. And then we'll lift this away. And it just leaves a cool little pattern on your ephemera or your journal page. Here's kind of a close-up look. I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit. Okay, so we have done a lot with this journal already. We have our cover and we have quite a few of our pages, and we even have a little flip in here and all these little tabs. So we are going to continue just to decorate the pages, and you can do as much or as little as you want here. I'm going to continue to add these writing cards, and I printed some extras of these just because I imagine this journal would have a lot of writing space. I feel like that would be a nice use for this. And then also I'm going to keep decorating using some of the pieces from the kit. So I'm going to let you follow along and just kind of watch what I'm doing and get some ideas for your journal. So now that we've kind of completed our pages, I'm going to go back through and tuck some things into the pockets and tuck spots we made and add just a few finishing touches. Okay, you guys, I think we're about finished. So we've got our no-sew journal in this pretty shabby vintage style that we can make in one day really easily. It's not too hard to put together with a little bit of glue and cutting, and we're gonna go ahead and take a look through this and see how we did. All right, everyone, that was our shabby Victorian journal that we finished in one day with no sewing. It's a really easy and fun project with a lot of wow factor, in my opinion. So we'll put the link for this kit down below, and please share the things that you create on our Facebook page. We'd love to see if you make something like this. We'll put a link to our Facebook group down below as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!